Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Eva, and today we are going to be demoing, reviewing, talking all about the new Merit Solo Shadows. Now, this was a product launch that I was so excited about because I love cream eyeshadows, I love stick eyeshadows, I love any sort of like one and done shadow. And when I found out Merit was going to be launching these, I was very intrigued. Merit, for me, has some products I really love and then products that I think are way overhyped. I actually recently did a video all about Merit. I will have it linked up here where I go over pretty much every single product in their lineup. So I had high hopes for the Merit Solo Shadows, but I also was mentally ready to be let down because a few of the Merit products in the past have let me down. Spoiler alert, I do really like these products, and I know this isn't like the first video on YouTube talking about these. There have been several other videos already, but what I'm going to do during this video is I'm going to apply one of the darker shades, like the navy blue, which is a shade that tends to be patchy. I'm going to swatch all of the shades, and then I'm also going to talk about formula comparisons and dive into like, is this actually a unique shadow, or is it just another MAC paint pot? Is it just another e.l.f. cream shadow, etc. So if you're interested in application of the darker shades and also comparisons of formula, then go ahead and keep on watching. Let's start off by diving a little bit more into the launch in case you aren't familiar. The Merit Solo Shadows retail for $24. They are a pot shadow, and they are supposed to be a cream to powder finish. I'm going to show you some of the marketing that they did for this cream shadow. It was very like minimal, beautiful, aesthetic, 90s vibes, etc. But something that kind of annoyed me about the marketing, I will say, is they were acting like they invented cream eyeshadows. It was very strange. Like, they were pretending like they are the first brand ever to come out with a cream eyeshadow, when in reality, MAC has been doing it and doing it well for, I don't know, like MAC paint pots I've been using since I was in high school. So they have been doing them for well over 15 years. So that's something that was just like a little annoying to me. I know that's nitpicky, but it was just like a little weird to me. Like, I don't get I loved all the imagery, but again, the whole like we invented eyeshadow, cream eyeshadow was a little strange. So just putting that out there. Now for the product itself, there are 8 shades. I did pick up all 8 because I have major problems and because I was so curious to try the lighter shades and the deeper shades. I am going to insert arm swatches right now so you can see what the products look like on very fair skin. I am super excited about the shade range. I really love those like warm tone browns, and then I also really like that there are some darker shades. They also launched a new brush with this product. I ended up picking up the brush even though I have a ton because I was intrigued. If it is a new formula coming out from a brand, I do try to purchase the brush that they're releasing a product with because I want to make sure that I'm using the product in the way it is intended. Now, if it's just like a very, very basic brush, like, you know, like a foundation brush, not always the case. But for this one, I don't know, maybe I was suckered in. I was intrigued. It is a dual-ended brush, and it is a domed brush on one end. It's pretty stiff. It's not like a fluffy crease brush. And then on the other end, we have a more precise liner type of brush. I also thought this would be really good for travel as well because it is dual-ended and quite small. Now this retails for $20. On the Merit site, they do have a few kits now available where I believe you get like a shadow, the brush, and maybe a mascara. I'll have that linked down below, but you are able to save some money by purchasing some of those kits on the Merit site. Let's go into packaging because if you've watched my videos before, I'm very picky about packaging. And I want to talk about the Merit packaging. So something I love is I do love that gold mirrored lid, even though it means it gets very dirty. I think it's very pretty. I like that the labels on the back are the color of the product inside. That's really important to me because I'm a makeup collector, and being able to know what the color is without having to memorize the shade names, it's very useful. I like a detail like that. Now, as far as the packaging itself, I was really surprised that it was in plastic. It looks very luxe on camera, but I was expecting it to be glass, like the MAC paint pots. Now, I haven't researched if it is due to like sustainability factors. I do know some brands are moving into more like compostable plastics instead of using glass because it's more environmentally friendly. I don't know if that's the case or if they just cheaped out on us. I admittedly don't know. If you know, leave a comment below. But I will say the product does feel a little cheap because it is so lightweight. So that is something to keep in mind. I do like the weightiness of a MAC paint pot, having it in that glass. Something I absolutely love about this packaging, and I don't know why more brands don't do it, is this lid is designed so that when it really is fully closed, it will click. I don't know if you can hear that, but if I just close it like this and it's not, you know, quite all the way closed, you're not going to hear that click, but then you can hear and feel the click. And I think that's really important for cream products because it's easy to sometimes not fully close it all the way and you think it's closed and then the product will dry out. So overall, I'm pleased with the packaging. I think it looks very nice, but would have preferred a glass base. Let's talk about the formula itself now. I found this formula to actually be unique. Even though, yes, it is another pot shadow, and there are several other brands who have been doing pot shadows for a while, the cream to powder aspect of this product is really unique in my opinion. I think that the dry down is kind of fast, so once you apply it, you do need to blend it out, but I really don't know how to describe it. So like this is the shade Nelson. It looks like a powder shadow already. Like the way it dries down looking like a powdered shadow as opposed to looking like a cream or liquid pigment, if that makes sense. Hopefully you kind of understand what I'm saying there. For today's video, I want to apply Midnight, which is this really beautiful navy blue. It's very, very pigmented, and it's a very beautiful fall shade in my opinion. I saw a lot of comments on social media about the shade Midnight. People were curious like how those darker shades are going to look in the cream formula. So I'm going to apply this one today. So let's go ahead and get into the application. I have zoomed you in for the application of Midnight, which again is this beautiful midnight blue shade. Now, the way I want to apply this is I want to start just in my crease and try to blend it out and see how well we can smoke out the product, because a shade like this all over my lid will look a little intense and a little too nighttime. So we are going to attempt a more subtle smoked out look, and that will also give us an idea of how well these blend out when you are trying to do a subtle look, not all over the lid. So to start, I am going to dip in with that number 2 brush, and then I'm just gonna close the lid right away. I'm just paranoid about products drying out. Now I'm gonna be looking in my mirror down here, and I am going to just start placing the product where I would want to smoke it out. I'm kind of just like doing some patting motions as well. And I'm basically applying it just to like my outer corner, sort of. Okay, I got more on the lid than I initially intended. It's honestly already smoking itself out because of that cream to powder finish. It's actually pretty light and not overly intense in a good way to where it would be okay for me to apply this all over my lid. So I am just blending it out. I lied, I ended up going like all over the lid, but I actually think it looks really nice. And it is a really beautiful, like sheer wash of navy, not overly intense. I think this is a shade you can wear all over the lid without looking like you are going to like a haunted house. I don't know what a blue eyeshadow has to do with the haunted house. My mind is just on Halloween. Okay, so here is the shade Sheared Out. Blending job, obviously not the best on my end because that is not my specialty. But I think that just goes to show that if someone who is not the best at eyeshadow can create like a very easy, like smoky look with just one eyeshadow, I think that says a lot about the product. Okay, so we have it on this eye. We are going to apply on the other eye. And then I want us to try layering a couple shades and then also use another shade as a liner, because a lot of people have already done videos of just focusing on the one and done nature of the product, but I am interested to see in how they layer. Okay, so here are the eyes with that shade Midnight applied. I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup. This brush is pretty good. I'm enjoying it. I will say it reminds me a lot of the Rougher 12 brush. So if you have the Rougher 12 brush and you don't feel the need for a little like eyeliner brush on the end, you don't need to pick this up. The Rougher 12 brush will do you just fine. This is not patchy at all. I have to say I'm really impressed. It's not patchy. It went on evenly, it blended nicely. It does really dry down, so you have to work like a little quickly. But it didn't prove to be a problem for me. So this is what it looks like with like a very messy, slightly blended out look. Now let's go ahead and do some layering because I'm curious how the products will layer on top of one another. I will say I did wear, I believe it was the shade Midcentury all over my lid last week, and then I applied the new Tarte palette over it, and it wore beautifully. So it worked very well under powder eyeshadows, but I've not yet tried layering these on top of one another. So I think I'm gonna go in with Studio, which is this really pretty cool toned brown. And this time I'm gonna actually take a flat shader. You could totally use your fingers, but these dry down are a little bit hard to get off, so I would prefer to use a brush. I'm going in with the What's Up R106 brush, and I am just going to apply this kind of in the inner corner of my lid just to lighten up the shade a little bit and give it a little bit more dimension. Okay, these are layering really nicely. Sometimes I find that when you layer cream shadows, they build up really badly and really emphasize the lines on your eyelid, but I am not experiencing that at all with this. These are working together pretty nicely. Okay. I'm very happy with the way those layered up. Now for liner, I want to go in with the shade Nelson, which is this like deep gray, and do a little liner on the upper lash line, going in with that little liner side of this brush. And then again, putting the lid back on because I am paranoid. Hear that click? Oh, that's pretty. It's very like 90s smoky smudgy. So I do understand that aspect of their marketing. This is definitely giving me like a 90s kind of like Kate Moss vibes of the eye. Okay, I really wasn't paying attention when I applied the liner on this one. Okay, I'm not sure I love it for the liner purposes, mainly because it does dry down pretty quickly. So I don't know if I'll continue to use it as a liner. It looks like a little too smudgy and messy, in my opinion. But if you are more advanced, you'll probably do just fine. But for someone like me, I think I'll stick with using these as an all over lid shade as opposed to trying to line with it. This is the final eye look. Again, very pleased with how the shadows look. I'm going to apply mascara and line my waterline. Hello. So this video has now taken a turn. I am going to insert iPhone footage that I just took of what the eye look looks like up close now that we are 4 hours post application. So I will go ahead and insert that here. We are doing a vlog style, like 4-hour check-in. And I have to say that for the navy shade, I'm noticing a ton of fading. I did not experience that with the like brown shades, but I am noticing a lot of fading. I actually still like the way it looks because it does look like a very like subtle smoky eye where you didn't really try hard, and it does look kind of like editorial in that sense, very 90s grunge, but it is fading quite a bit. They are fading a lot. So I did want to call that out. Again, I still think overall it looks good, but if you are looking for like a really intense packs a punch dark color, you're not going to want to pick up one of these in the darker shades because the fading is pretty dramatic. And again, it's only been 4 hours. As you can tell from that clip, like the midnight shade has almost evaporated from my eyelids. Like it does give a very nice like sheer wash. It does look very like je ne sais quoi, like I'm not really trying, like I don't know why my eyes are mysterious, etc. But I am shocked by how much it faded in such a short period of time. So before we get into comparisons of the formula to other pot shadows, I do want to actually remove that midnight shade and apply one of the brown shades that wore beautifully on me the other day. That way I can do a check-in in a couple hours and you can see the difference, because I promise you the other day the lighter shades wore beautifully and I don't want you to think I'm leading you astray. So I'm going to get some eye makeup remover, remove what I have on my lids, and then come back and apply another shade. Now we're going to go ahead and apply the shade Vachetta, which is a very, very pretty brown. And let me show you what that looks like. Super pretty. This is like my favorite shade of a brown shadow. I am going to go ahead and just apply with my finger because I already have product on my finger and I don't want to waste it. And then on the other side, we can apply with the brush. Again, we can just go back in with that same Merit brush. I did wipe it off, but it's just a little stained right now, but the product that's on there is dry. Yeah, there's just something about applying with the brush that I really, really like, which normally isn't my preference for cream shadows. I pretty much always go in with my finger, but I don't know, maybe it's that like cream to powder formulation that makes me like it. I am not positive. Now we have Vachetta on the lids. Very beautiful color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to film some iPhone footage in a couple of hours showing you how this particular shade wore throughout the afternoon. That way we can get a more accurate picture of how those like lighter shades perform in comparison to those darker shades. We are back at the end of the day. So I want to say it's been 5-6 hours since I applied the shade Vachetta, and I want to zoom you in and show you on my iPhone because you can really, I think, get an accurate portrayal of the eye look and give you an idea. So keep in mind, I did do a workout since this application. I also showered. I didn't wash my face, obviously. So there was steam, hot water, and then sweat. And I think the eye look still looks pretty good. You will see there is some creasing up here and then up here as well, which is interesting and which I will provide some commentary on shortly. So you just saw the zoomed in look of Vachetta like 5-6 hours after application. And what I found interesting, and I mentioned this in the clip, is that even with this shade, I'm still noticing a little bit of fading and creasing in my upper lid area, which is the same spot that I had creasing with that Midnight darker shade. I had assumed that it was just an issue with the dark shades, but I do want to mention that. And I normally do not have a huge problem with my eyelids creasing. I don't have oily eyelids. I do have like, you know, wrinkly-ish eyelids, but normally that's not a huge problem for me. So I do think that's interesting, and I imagine it is due to that cream to powder formulation where for whatever reason it kind of starts to crease, or it's more so I would say fade in that top portion, less so creasing. I still really like the way my eyes look though. It's kind of weird, like even though it did fade a bit over the past 6 hours, I still think the way my eyes look is really nice and easy, and it looks like very effortless. It's a very effortless eye look is how I would describe the use of these products. Now, what I want to do is I want to get into formula comparisons. I want to swatch some of the other cream shadows in my collection and kind of talk about the dry down time and do some close-ups and share a little bit more about how the formulas differ. Okay, let's start off by talking about like the OG cream shadow and one of my favorite MAC products of all time, the MAC paint pots. These have been around forever. This is in the shade Taylor Gray. These recently have been going on sale during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, not the fall one, but the other one that they have, I think, in the summer. So just want to shout that out. Painterly and then Tailored Gray are two of my favorite shades. And the difference between the two formulas is I would say this does not dry down to a powder formulation. It very much dries down on the lid, and I do think you can really build it up more than you can with the Merit ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my next comparison, and then we're going to swatch the MAC Paint Pot, my next comparison, and the Merit ones on my arm. And we are going to wait 1 minute, and then we are going to see what the dry down looks like. The next one I want to talk about is the e.l.f. No Budge Cream Shadow. This one is in the shade Sand Dune. These launched this past year and I feel like did not get enough hype. The concept is very similar to a MAC paint pot, and these are under $10. Oh, I should have mentioned the MAC paint pots retail for around the same price as the Merit ones. The packaging is a little bit more luxe in my opinion because of that weighted glass, which just, I don't know, adds a bit of luxury, but also more weight to your makeup bag. Now I'm going to swatch Studio by Merit, the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow, and then the paint pot. And we're going to wait a minute and I'm going to show you how they dry down and kind of how those formulas differ. Okay, so here we have the three products. Obviously, the Merit one is not a shade match, but this is about the formula. So here we have the Merit shadow, then we have the MAC Paint Pot, and then we have the e.l.f. No Budge eyeshadow. Okay, so it's been a minute and the products have set. I'm going to show you up close what happens when I try to move them around with my finger. So you can see that the e.l.f. one did smudge a little bit and I was able to move it, but the MAC Paint Pot and the Merit one really stay put. I think it's also important to note that the e.l.f. one is way more pigmented than the other two. Now a little bit more about the formula and how they like feel when you're applying them. The Merit one, again, is different because it has that cream to powder finish. The MAC paint pots are a little stiffer in consistency, and then the e.l.f. ones are super soft and emollient and very like almost moussey. Even though it's not a mousse, it's a very lightweight, very pigmented formula. I also just tried to move all 3 of those with a makeup wipe, and I'm going to show you what the results were. This is after 2 swipes of the makeup wipe, and you can see the e.l.f. one still has remnants. The MAC one was the first to go, and then there are still some remnants of the Merit shadows. Let's recap on kind of what we experienced today, because it's been a roller coaster. There's been some whiplash, much like the Sophie and Joe Jonas divorce news. There has been a lot of whiplash today. So first we found out that the dark shades fade within 2 hours, which was very, very shocking to me. So that was very surprising. We also thought that they layered well, but the layering of the light shade over the dark shade meant that they all just faded. So that was very strange. So we found out that the dark shades fade very quickly. They don't really layer well. Now, the light shades look very beautiful, especially for the first couple of hours, but they definitely fade once you hit hour 5, hour 6. Now, that doesn't mean these are bad products. What it means is that you should avoid, in my opinion, those darker shades. I'm here to really be honest and like save you money where you can, and like I will always be honest on this channel. And I think this launch, while I'm still glad that I picked up the products because I really wanted to test them out and I love trying new formulas and forming my opinions, I think this launch is kind of just so-so. Because if half of your shades are fading after a couple hours, like what does that say about the whole launch? Well, the lighter shades and like, or just like the medium shades do wear nicely. I don't know. Like I can't sit here and like recommend that you rush out and buy these. I will say if you are interested in still picking these up, my favorites are Vachetta and Midcentury. I will have the Merit, both the Merit and Sephora links down below. I would recommend if you are going to purchase them, purchase from Merit because you can get their cute little bag. I've mentioned it in other videos, but you get their cute little bag for free. Oh, let me go grab it. You get this cute little bag for free, and like I've used this as a purse. You can use it as a little makeup bag, etc. So I would recommend picking them up at Merit, but I will also leave the Sephora links down below. This video was a little bit of a roller coaster, but in conclusion, I would say I cannot at this point in time recommend the dark shades. I did apply that light blue one pretty lightly because I wanted it to be a daytime look. So I do need to go back and really build up the product and see if it still has that fading issue. Same with, you know, Nelson and Viper, the green shade. So I'll continue to play around with them. And if I do have a change in opinion, I will definitely do another video updating you. But for now, my opinion is that the lighter shades are nice, but I think if you're interested in a cream shadow, you should really just try out a MAC paint pot or try one of the e.l.f. shadows. I'll have the No Budge e.l.f. products linked down below and the MAC paint pots, but I would recommend starting with either the e.l.f. or the MAC ones before diving into the Merit ones if you have oily eyelids or if you need products to last all day. That's something that's so interesting about Merit. If you watch my other Merit video, I'll link it here, a lot of their products look stunning upon application, like absolutely beautiful. Like their blushes, the bronzer balm, I wear this every day, even though it fades after like 3 hours. So it's beautiful makeup for a short period of time. So it very much depends on your use case. Majority of people want makeup that is going to last all day. I've mentioned this before, but I work from home. Like if I need to do a quick little touch up during lunch, it doesn't bother me too much, but majority of people are buying makeup for it to last all day and not just look amazing for the first, 3 to 5 hours. So that's where Merit sometimes loses me, is there is a way to do really beautiful minimal makeup that still lasts, and some of their products just don't nail it for me. So if you stuck with me this long in the review, I do really appreciate it. I know I took longer than others to get the review up, but YouTube really is a rat race. If you're someone like me who doesn't have a lot of subscribers yet, like the faster you get a review up, the more likely you are to get new subscribers. But for a product like this, I really wanted to test out the products before giving like a full endorsement. I did mention on Instagram stories, like my initial impression was they were amazing, but obviously that's changed as I've tried other colorways and have worn them throughout like more of a full day more consistently and done like very close inspections. If you have any questions about the shades or any alternates, if you want me to do any like shade comparisons to other potted shadows in my collection, let me know in the comments below and I will be more than happy to oblige.